You want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
You can't handle the truth!
Well, we're giving you the Michigan Sports Truth, the show that is honest, reveals the facts, truth, and statistics, and does not mess around. Follow me, Taylor Phillips, on Twitter at DT2Phillips. Email me at TaylorGatorPhillips14@yahoo.com. Follow Ed Smith on Twitter at EdSmith313, and go to our website at MichiganSportsTruth.com. Also like our Facebook page, The Michigan Sports Truth, and join our Facebook group with the same name. The Michigan Sports Truth podcast on Spreaker is also available on iHeartRadio and SoundCloud. Also a subsidiary of Sports Radio Detroit, thus available on iTunes and Podbean. This podcast is particularly not for entertainment purposes, and the views expressed by the host of this podcast are opinion-based. However, they do not come without facts, research, statistics, and truth, whether other people like it or not, and no matter how harsh or complicated it may be. This is the Michigan Sports Truth, and nothing can ever stop it from being correct.
Episode 265 of the Weekend Review is on the air. Taylor Phillips and Ed Smith with you guys. How you doing, Ed?
Even more so. Today is actually perfect. So I'm already having a pleasant start to the day.
Well, got to recap Tigers again. Also, the Griffins opening up their AHL Calder Cup playoffs, Western Conference Finals. Plus, weighing in Motown gives Ken Hall and Jeff Blashill quite a grade each. Also some news on former Lions wide receiver Calvin Johnson and some college football news. And the Chippewas get a new athletic director. Then we'll dive into 5 questions. But first, the Tigers.
That one is long gone!
So they had Monday off. Then Matt Boyd started on Tuesday. He gave up 7 runs. Tigers rallied back from down 7-1 to take the lead 7-8, highlighted by a 3-run home run by J.D. Martinez that gave the Tigers the 8-7 lead. Justin Wilson obviously blew the save to Mark Trumbo. 2 high heaters. Trumbo made him pay when Justin Wilson looked like he was going to get a 4-up, 4-down, 4-out save. And then Trumbo took him deep the other way, and then both teams managed to stay tied after 9 at 8 apiece, going in extra innings. And then Chris Davis hit 2 big dingers, a 3-run home run and then a home run. The 3-run home run off of, I believe, Blaine Hardy, I think. But the other home run off of Francisco Rodriguez. But there were many ways that the Tigers should have won this, but after coming back. But then again, there was no the way they were down 7-1. It almost like they had no chance to win that game.
No, it reminded me a little bit of it was a few years back, the game they had against the White Sox. I think they were down by the exact score 7-1 going into the bottom of the 9th, and then they just rallied off 7 runs in a row, which was highlighted by back-to-back home runs from the likes of all people, Ryan Rayburn, and then of course the walk-up homer from Miguel Cabrera. Similar type of scenario, using the big fly to climb your way back in. Unfortunately, though, the bullpen continues to be a thorn in the side of not just the Tigers, but the fans as well, costing us yet another game. First blowing the save in the 9th inning, like you mentioned from Wilson, and K-Rod continuing the dumpster fire, which is the tail end of his career, by giving up the go-ahead runs in the 13th.
And the Tigers ended up losing that game, 13-11 in 13 innings. Tigers rallied back from down 11-8 to tie it back up, but those 2 runs that Francisco Rodriguez gave up, that was typical. But we'll get to Francisco Rodriguez later in the weekend in the weekly recap. But the Tigers beat the Orioles back 5-4 and then 6-5. Tyler Collins in that 5-4 win hit 2 home runs, including a go-ahead 3-run home run in the 5th inning. That stood to be the game winner. Justin Wilson just barely held on to make the save, to get the save. Had runners on second and third and 2 out, and he managed to get the final out. And then Thursday, Victor Martinez and J.D. Martinez each hit a home run. Alex Wilson got the save. After that, Victor Martinez was put on the paternity list after that game. And since then, we still haven't seen Victor Martinez in quite some time. Not after last night's Sunday night baseball game when the Tigers were playing the Texas Rangers in a 3-game set at Comerica Park. The Rangers ended up taking 2 out of 3. The Tigers winning a fluke, in my eyes, on Saturday night on Fox National Broadcast, 9-3. They hit 4 home runs, 3 of them back-to-back-to-back by Alex Avila, Miguel Cabrera, and J.D. Martinez. But it goes to show you the Tigers would have been, on Saturday night, would have been better without Victor Martinez, particularly in the cleanup spot. Victor Martinez still would have played, yes, but of course we would have bat him 7th or 6th. Not 8th, though. That would be a little too harsh, but Victor Martinez's numbers are still down, and he's still not quite improving the way we need him to.
Well, you're way nicer than me because I wouldn't even put Victor on the field. I would only have him come off the field, onto the field in pitch hit situations. That lineup that Office put out on Saturday was probably the best lineup he's put out all year, and for good reason. Alex Avila's hitting over 1,000 OPS or OPB, one of those two. He's batting over 1,000 against righties in that particular metric. So it made only sense for him to be in that lineup. And, while I was a little bit of surprise, him hitting second really proved to be big dividends as well. J.D. Martinez batting cleanup behind Miguel Cabrera, no problem with that at all, especially when we've had to deal with the past couple of weeks with V-Mart in the lineup. Also, a rare instance of having your cake and eating it too, you can have by having Avila batting first and having Miggy batting DH because he's dealing with a hip strain or something like that. That was mentioned in the injury report. With him batting DH, you can have the cake and eating it too option of having McCann and Avila in the same lineup and on the field at the same time. Back to your quick point, bro, about Tyler Collins. You mentioned him having the 2 homers in the 5-4 win or the 6-5 win, one of those two. Going into that game, though, he coming off a stretch where he was over in his last 20 or so at bats where he couldn't produce a damn thing, couldn't hit wall every foul side of a boat, basically. So it was nice for him, at least, for his sake, to get off the schneid, have a good game. I wonder how long that can last. I doubt it's going to be long. But, they say every blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
Yeah, I believe that, but I think McCann needed a night off, considering the fact that John Hicks was called up while the Tigers sent down Buck Farmer. John Hicks had about as high numbers as Jim Adduci before he went on the disabled list. Hicks was then sent back down after the 5-2 loss to the Texas Rangers. He was brought up prior to Friday night's 5-3 loss, and he didn't. And Ausmus didn't even give him a shot. I understand that Hicks may be a backup as well as Jim Adduci, but I thought McCann needed it off. Maybe we could have tried John Hicks as a catcher because he's a catcher and a first baseman as listed by MLB.com.
Possibly, or just start Alex Avila. That would have been much more simple. Because, look, and be honest, Hicks and Adduci, they did well, but they were only there for emergency purposes because not only while we were still waiting for JD to get back from his injury, Miggy had just gone on the DL as well. needed that stretch of, they had to be there for depth and body purposes. We needed a body there, so we wouldn't be too completely whittled down at our thin rotation as is. So they were serviceable, but I really wasn't expecting them to be up for long once Miggy and JD got back.
Right. But then again, we still could have used them and kept them on the 25-man roster regardless, because they were two of the best players on the team afterwards. They were small sample sizes, but they showed us a lot, not just something, a whole lot, and I think they deserve those two final spots in the 25-man roster. Wouldn't you agree?
Maybe so, but it's still early in the season to really quell on that, in my opinion, to really filter that out. I would say wait throughout the rest of the season if they get more chances to have more at-bats, whatever, and then around September, when they do the September call-ups, then you would have legit right, but they're not on there. If they continue producing at the rate that they were before Miggy and JD got back.
Yeah, and in only 2 games the past week, the Tigers scored a total of 20 runs on Tuesday and Saturday, but besides that, they scored an average of, 4 or 5.
They're around the average of 5, so it's still
5.
fairly
Yeah,
decent
5. 5 in the rest of the games, because the majority of those games in the past week, the Tigers' offense hasn't clicked much, and that.
For this week, I have to probably respectfully disagree for this week, because this week, as compared to the week before, their offense has been much more consistent. The week before, they were barely struggling to get 1 run, or let alone 3 runs at a time, whereas this week you're seeing 11 runs, 5 runs, 6 runs, 9 runs, and again with the Friday out Saturday. Friday and Sunday, I should say, but not good, but still 5 runs, 6 runs, 9 runs, 11 runs. I would say a fairly decent week for your offense. It's not their fault that your late inning relief can't do shit to protect the lead.
Yeah, but Tyler Collins, he's playing center field. I believe he's been our only center fielder for the time being. When Jacoby Jones is still slowly but surely rehabbing in Toledo, Tyler Collins still is not lining up his bat.
So like I said before, you mentioned the Wednesday. That was before the Wednesday game.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that he hit those 2 home runs. I was going to point out, every dog has its day. I believe that was the only game that Tyler Collins had as quite a night. Otherwise, he went 1 for 4 on Saturday, and then he probably didn't do anything except get on base once last night on ESPN. Friday, I'm not sure how he did, but
in fairness, though, Yu Darvish has for some reason for the Rangers, he's always found a way to have success against the Tigers. So that was going to be a tough matchup, regardless of whatever lineup was going up against him. As you can see, getting only 2 runs off yeah. So I really wouldn't put too much of a fault or a blame on Tyler Collins for that. When Yu Darvish has been feeling pretty comfortable pitching against Tigers hitting for the past few years now.
And Yu Darvish faced off against Matt Boyd in the starting pitching matchup, and Matt Boyd gave up 5 runs, and he couldn't even make it through the 6th inning. That was a mismatch. Yu Darvish, even though he threw about 100 pitches over in just 5 innings, he did very well, keeping the Tigers off the board. And Yu Darvish still has yet to heal. Still having a little side effects, but I think Yu Darvish is doing better. So that's the week in review. We received word that the past week, Chris Ilitch, the owner of the Tigers, has now been approved by Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred as now the permanent owner of the Tigers, which will be temporary, as Frank Vasner pointed out, because we read Jeff Moss's article, Kelly Ilitch telling friends that the Tigers and Red Wings will be sold because of tax issues and financial debt tied to team revenue, which is true. There's truth in that those came from two former Ilitch Holdings employees, and that just goes to show you why Chris Ilitch won't be the permanent owner for the Tigers for too long. So.
Right. It was just a formality of officially approving the next line of succession due to Mr. I's passing. So this really surprised me of hearing about Chris being named the permanent owner, because I'm pretty sure that was expected to happen anyway. Mike probably had it written out long before he died. So again, like you said, Taylor, and like Jeff Moss has been reporting, it's just a matter of when, not if, when the Ilitch family sells both the Tigers and the Wings. So I really can't offer too much about, okay, it's got the official title for now, but probably, like you mentioned, Taylor, it's going to be seen as a temporary thing. In terms of when, I can't remember if that's one of the 5 questions or not. But
yeah, it is.
Okay, so I'll save my answer for that for later on.
I'd have to agree with that one. So, we shift from baseball to hockey, but we're not going to sound the Red Wings foghorn yet, and Ken Kal yet, but we will in due time. But the Grand Rapids Griffins just opened up their Western Conference Finals in the AHL Calder Cup playoffs with the San Jose Barracuda. First time the Griffins, maybe in a long time, maybe first time ever, that they faced the Barracuda in a playoff series. The Griffins went to SAP Center and took game one 3-1, and the Barracuda took advantages of Griffin's penalties, 2 power play goals. Barracuda won game 2 4-2. So that series is tied at a game apiece. Games 3 through 5, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, they're all at 7. Hopefully the Grand Rapids Griffins can stay out of the damn penalty box. They committed only 6 penalties. Well, actually, they committed 6 penalties in the first game. Second game, I didn't keep track of it really, but they sure paid the price. So, again, series tied at 1. Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, all at 7. Games 3 through 5 at Van Andel Arena in downtown Grand Rapids. That can be heard on ESPN 961, also on iHeartRadio. The same online radio website that you can find Taylor's Detroit Sports, which has episodes of the Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker. So, with that being said, we dive into Red Wings news here. Winging In Motown has graded general manager Ken Holland and head coach Jeff Blashill each an F. Now, you might have read all the information on all that to the audience out there, but there's a reason why Ken Holland and Jeff Blashill were not really improving. So that's gonna be another one of our 5 questions as well.
But if I can mention something briefly on the topic, I think it's a well-deserved rating on both ends, especially for Ken Holland.
Yep, because he signed Steve Ott, Franz Nielsen. I give him credit for signing Thomas Vanek, though.
Again, you go back to the analogy. Every flying squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
Oh, gotcha. Well, anyway, that's Red Wings. Just making it short and sweet. So we'll transition from hockey to football.
Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Touchdown, Detroit Lions!
Former Lions wide receiver Calvin Johnson, we heard Saturday night, was not pleased with the treatment the Lions that gave him after the retirement. And then yesterday he admitted that he had concussions from team doctors during his playing career. I'm not sure if those two stories are related to one another or not. I'm thinking possibly, but there's like at least more than one reason why Calvin Johnson had to retire.
Obviously, I think the two obvious reasons to me, most of all, one, his health. He knew his body was going to be, if he was going at the rate he was, his body would be completely in shambles by the time he probably reached the age of 40. And also, not to mention, tired of losing, tired of dealing with BS. Same thing that Barry Sanders had to deal with when he retired in '99. So it really didn't surprise me, at least, when essentially this confirmation came about. Now, if anything, it does, hearing about Calvin Johnson dealing with concussions reminded me of the news came out this week with Tom Brady's wife, Gisele Bundchen, telling CBS News this morning of how Tom Brady, of how her husband would be dealing with concussions, how it created a firestorm and all that. So it was a quite interesting parallel I was getting from that. But to hear of Calvin Johnson expressing, now listen, when have you ever heard of Calvin Johnson being a prima donna or a diva or any of that? You never heard that. You often hear of him being optimistic, jovial almost at times, a bit of a quiet nature, but also, very hospitable. So you would never think of him as having any type of resenting thoughts or any negative memories regarding his tenure or whatever, aside from losing seasons. So to hear him make these comments and make this statement, it just really shines a light on the fact that this is a very disruptive organization, period. We've known about this for many, many years, but it was just another form of confirmation to hear Calvin Johnson say these words.
Yeah, and it's quite obviously true, but Calvin Johnson did have valid points. He had concussions. He admitted that he hid them, and I understand he did well with the Lions. He made fantastic catches with 2 or 3 men covering him, especially in the end zone. But other than that, he just felt he wasn't comfortable with the team anymore, and his health was down. So he might as well hang it up. And I don't blame him at all.
No, especially when the amount of money that it's getting, right? You get what you can, cash out, and enjoy the rest of your life as best as humanly possible. Now, it is a shame that a player with the caliber of career and physical gift and talent that Calvin had to deal with such a losing and pathetic culture as the Lions, as he had for his entire career. Let's say, for instance, I know this is a popular thing to say, if he was in New England, who knows what could have happened? maybe Tom Brady will have a couple more Super Bowl rings by now. But here nor there, you deal with the cards that you're dealt with. And I think Calvin Johnson, despite all that, put together a pretty damn fantastic career that I'll have no problem saying, probably not first ballot, but still eventually a resume that would eventually make him worthy of being of having a Hall of Fame induction. And that's still, again, dealing with the culture and the organizational disaster that was and still is the Detroit Lions in some respects. Now, I think Bob Quinn is slowly but surely trying to turn this over into the new leaf, finally bring this franchise into the 21st century for once. But as long as the Ford family is still in charge, that stigma, that stench will never quite fully go away for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other fans, until the Ford family is finally removed from the team. But I doubt that's going to happen. This is because the building they're playing in has no likeness, for goodness sake. And I'm not sure between what there's an infighting or what regarding the Ford family, but I'm sure they're doing whatever they would do, whatever they can to keep the Lions in house. Even though I'm sure there might be some constituents that feel it might be best long term for the family to sell the team. That's just my view on that.
Yeah, well, at least their general manager Bob Quinn has been doing well, especially in free agency and the NFL draft. But yeah, the Ford family, Calvin Johnson has probably, put it this way, he's had issues with the owners as well, the Ford family, and I still think the Ford family still just isn't able to bring the Lions any type of championship. Not even an NFC North Division championship, for example. They just keep settling for the wild card every time they make the playoffs in our lifetime.
Now, I think in some level of fairness, you can credit that to how damn good the Green Bay Packers have been and Aaron Rodgers have been, and being in the way of the Lions doing, trying to get that next step. So it comes down to the fact that, you need more competent coaching and a better culture from ownership and whatnot. But when you're still playing, when you still put those guys and players on the field, it comes down to, can they be better than the other team? Some instances, yes. Most times, no. And then also, and the majority of those most times, it's been because of one dude, Aaron Rodgers, and one team, the Green Bay Packers. So it really comes down to, once you topple the Packers, the North is yours, essentially.
That's true. So, that's Calvin Johnson and Lions talk. So now we're going to transition to college football.
Touchdown, Michigan!
Starting with your Michigan Wolverines, Ed Smith. Wide receiver Drake Harris has switched to cornerback, not quarterback, but cornerback for the upcoming 2017 season. That was Drake Harris's decision, and I thought he would just try it out, maybe help the defense a little bit, especially the secondary. And I agree, that's a hell of a move.
Yeah, and it's part experiment, but also part need, because like it has been mentioned before, the defense, the whole team in general, but especially the defense, lost a lot of talent to the draft this year, particularly their secondary. Jordan Lewis, Jabril Peppers, Channing Stripling, Delano Hill, among others. Just like I said, that was just the second name I just named off. They lost all those players to the draft. And when you mention the fact that, not to mention that Jeremy Clark, who was denied eligibility for a sixth year, again, it hurts you in the depth department with your secondary as well. So you need to get, again, like I mentioned before, was Aducci and Hicks for the Tigers. This is mostly about getting a body in there to make sure you're not too thin at the secondary spot. But hey, usually when you have a wide receiver who knows a thing or two about routes and trying how other receivers work and whatnot. Those kind of instincts could help out when you're trying to translate that to a different position, a similar position, but a different side of the field. So when you have a quarterback that has knowing tendencies of a wide receiver, how they can catch, running routes, getting ready for jump balls and whatnot, that can help you out not just depth-wise, but also skill-wise at that specific spot. Now, again, this defense is going to have the whole team, but especially this defense is going to have their work cut out because mainly they're replacing all that talent that was lost in the draft. But this was a fairly good step, in my opinion. It was a needed step, and we'll see where it goes from there.
That's another topic in the 5 questions that I might ask, and I'm going to stump you with it, actually. So, on the other hand,
Touchdown, MSU!
Michigan State Spartans football cornerback, speaking of which, Tyson Smith, reveals that he suffered a stroke last season. Hopefully, Tyson Smith doesn't suffer the same symptom that he did last season this season. So, there's that.
Well, you never know, depending on, we just recently deal with this in a real-life situation with Terry Foster. I think it's safe to say him having that stroke in the manner that he did, I think it was 2 strokes, I believe, or at least one big one. Either way, the effects of him dealing with that stroke was what ultimately led to him retiring from the radio. So if it can deal with you like that, or another instance with Dick Clark, he was never quite the same after his stroke until he died, even affecting how he did the New Year's Eve show. So while it's great to say, you survived and you're on your best road to recovery, these are things that can take time. And now he's young now, so he may have a better chance of recovering it better than the two people I mentioned before. But it's something about it that does stay with you and linger with you for a long time. So I wish him the best of luck for that for sure. Whether it be getting better, first and foremost, make sure for the sake of his health, his life, and for those around him that care about him and love him, I hope he gets better. Now, this means that may be a permanent effect on his career moving forward. We'll have to see. But the better and stranger things have happened before, so I wish him the best of luck in that.
It also kind of reminded me of Yuri Fisher suffering that seizure back in November 25th, 2005 against the Nashville Predators at the historic Joe Louis Arena when Mike Babcock was the head coach of the Red Wings. That was the first season after their 2004-2005 lockout that canceled that season. So, with that, I got a little CMU news here. Let me pull up that there we go.
Touchdown, Central Michigan!
My Chippewas have hired a new athletic director, and he's a former Oklahoma Sooners athletic director. His name is Michael Alford. Now, we understand that Dave Hickey left for the Arizona athletic director job with the Wildcats. Best of luck to him in that position down there southwest of the border. We'd like to welcome Michael Alford as our AD. So, to the audience out there, what do you think? It's not going to be a 5 questions topic, but to all the Chippewa fans out there, welcome Michael Alford. So, this one's pretty short and sweet, so why don't we get to 5 questions, shall we?
Absolutely, Kevin. Go ahead and let him rip, my friend.
It's time for 5 questions on the Michigan Sports Truth.
Question number 1. Have the Tigers been better off without Victor Martinez during his time on the paternity list?
I would say yes, simply on the fact that the results speak for themselves Avila, who's been smashing and raking upon right-handed pitchers, the way Sideshow Bob has, or I guess a reverse side effect of Sideshow Bob on stepping on a pair of rakes. That's what Alex Avila has been doing to right-handed pitching. So he needs to get in that lineup. Sometimes I'll admit I've been a little bit wishy-washy on should he bat second, should JD bat second, this and that. But as long as he's high enough to line up where he and Mickey and JD can do their work and do damage, I got no problem with it. Granted, one game, so that's why I like the ultimate sample size, but what's not a sample size is what Avila has been doing all season against right-handed pitching. So having him in that lineup, by nature, got a thumbs up for me for that one.
Next question.
Question number 2. How long could Chris Ilitch be the permanent owner for the Tigers and the Red Wings as of right now?
Right. You mentioned for right now, I would say the earliest, I would say, is probably wait until after the season. I doubt Chris Ilitch. I'm not sure if Chris Ilitch will be able to pull off a sale mid-season, especially in the immediate aftermath of his father dying. I would say at the earliest, wait until the season is over. So that still gives us a few several months down the road, like around November, December, that type of thing. So, granted, the family would probably still be hurting a little bit because Mr. I is no longer there, widow, no father, and all that. But I think enough time will have passed to when the deal is eventually made and both teams are sold. There won't be too much of a hurt that's there because Mr. I is already gone.
Next question.
Question number 3. Is there a way Michigan's Drake Harris can play both wide receiver and cornerback in one season?
I don't know. I mean, Harbaugh, I wouldn't put it past Harbaugh because he was trying to do whatever it was to pump up and stuff the stat sheet of Jabril Peppers whenever he had him out on offense. So that wouldn't really quite surprise me at the least. But in terms of for this specific reason, you need quantity over quality, it seems. You need depth over display. So I think it would be probably best interest for Drake Harris to be more focused on staying strictly towards being a cornerback than trying to do a double dip and juggle both at the same time.
Well, it also does depend on the fatigue level on whether Drake Harris can play both positions in one game, maybe one season as well. But yeah, it's a type of rotation between Harris and the other players. That's a positive thing that might factor in as well.
Not everyone is like a Jabril Peppers. They have that high motor and durability as well. So you got to take that into consideration also.
We don't need them to be. At least we can hope that somebody can be at least a two-way player. Now, but not like Jabril Peppers, but at least a two-way player.
Next question.
Question number 4. Whose fault is it in the debacle between the Lions and Calvin Johnson? I blame that 100% on the Lions.
The Lions. I can't say any more except the Lions. That's probably an open and shut question and case. Next.
Of course, yeah. Calvin Johnson was a great athlete. He was not at fault for anything. Even if he complained about the mistreatment that the Lions gave him.
If I played for a franchise that didn't win a single damn playoff game during my career and went through a winless season at one point in my career, I would have some gripe too. So I got no qualms against Calvin Johnson for that at all.
Yep. No questions. Let's just move on to question number 5.
Next question.
This one's another no-brainer. Do Ken Holland and Jeff Blashill deserve an F grade each? I say yes.
Here's another F. Fuck yes.
Yeah. Of course. So, that's 5 questions for all the listeners and fans out there. If you want to answer those questions, just replay the episode and answer them in the comment bank below this episode. That is episode 265 of the Week in Review of the Michigan Sports Truth on Spreaker. Before we sign off, I want to remind everyone to share this episode and our entire podcast on social media. Have their friends share that as well, because I want to tell them that the Michigan Sports Truth podcast is in search of local advertising sponsors. If anyone has a business that's interested in sponsoring this program, you can follow Sports Radio Detroit on Twitter at Sports Radio DET. That's Sports Radio Det. And send them a direct message or email them at sportsradiodetroit.com in the contact section, or email its owner, Roger Castillo, at rogcast81@gmail.com. Also like their Facebook page and join their Facebook group. And finally, find their podcast available on iTunes and Podbean. Ed, another Week in Review in the can. Great job today.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you very much. Now I'm just going to go ahead and enjoy the rest of my special day. Happy birthday to me.
Yep, happy birthday as well. You're 24 now, right?
That is correct. Thank you, Taylor.
Talk to you next week. Go on and celebrate.
Thank you, man. Thanks.
And for Ed Smith, I'm Taylor Phillips. Follow me on Twitter at DT2Phillips. Follow Ed Smith on Twitter at EdSmith313. And like the Facebook page, The Michigan Sports Truth, and join its Facebook group. We'll talk to you next week on episode 266 on the Week in Review. Thanks very much for listening. TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Bon appétit.